News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by U&I Furniture. The spring runoff is continuing to impact areas of Cache Valley. This morning, crews closed a section of 2400 West in Amalga after the Bear River flooded up and over the bridge near 5700 North. Roy Hathaway, ground crew lead with the Cache County Road Department, explained that the section of road and bridge were completely submerged by the river overnight. The closure will likely remain in effect for some time until water levels drop. As you might guess, traveling along 2400 West between Benson and Amalga has been affected. Right now, motorists will be detoured around the impacted area by traveling along 5400 North to State Route 218. Meanwhile, UDOT is also monitoring the bridge along SR 218 near 2000 West as water is nearing the edge of the bridge's base. Hathaway says it's difficult to predict when the section of 2400 West will reopen. The same bridge was closed back in 2011, but later in May because of spring runoff that year. KBNU News Time is 4:06. KBNU weather for tonight. Increasing clouds leading to a slight chance of showers overnight, low in the mid-40s. Chance of rain showers in the morning. Rain showers likely. Chance of thunderstorms as well in the afternoon Thursday. It's going to be cooler, mid-60s for the high, and a chance of showers Friday on into the weekend. 76 has been our high. It's 75 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Aggie Chocolate Factory. Moms love chocolate. Surprise mom with a chocolate tasting experience at the Aggie Chocolate Factory. Taste and feel the difference of various single origin chocolates and try to decide your favorite. Cost is $60 for a group up to 6, $10 more for each additional person. To purchase, call the Aggie Chocolate Factory. You'll find them just west of the football stadium in Blue Square.
The guys at U&I Furniture are grateful for all the snow we've been blessed with this winter, but they're ready for spring. Shop U&I's spring sale on mattresses. U&I Furniture's most talked about mattress is the copper-infused memory foam. It's by far the coolest and most responsive to touch mattress they've ever seen, and it's great for side sleepers and people with back issues. Come in for a demo. Whether it's a mattress, a full bedroom set, a comfy sectional, or just a chair, you'll always find a better buy at U&I Furniture. U&I Furniture, downtown Logan.
KBNU News Time is 4:08. The latest best states rankings by U.S. News reveal Utah and Idaho as two of the most attractive states for living, earning high scores in categories such as healthcare, education, infrastructure, economy, and quality of life. Utah came in at number 1 in the overall rankings due to its strong performance in fiscal stability, economy, infrastructure, education, and healthcare. Idaho was ranked 3rd overall with strong showings in fiscal stability and economy, crime, corrections, and infrastructure. Both states have seen steady population growth due to their low cost of living, high quality of life, and outdoor recreation opportunities. The rankings are based on statistics tied to more than 70 metrics across 8 categories. And some members of the Cache County Council responded with lukewarm enthusiasm to the hiring of a new County Development Services Director. At their regular meeting, April 25th, County Executive David Zook announced that a search committee had selected Stephen Nelson to fill that role, which had been vacant for about a year. Council Vice Chair Barbara Tidwell, who served on the search committee for the Development Services Director, said she did not know if the new director was the most qualified applicant or would be the best person for the position. Zook explained that Nelson is coming to Cache County, having recently served as Planning Director for the city of Hurricane in southern Utah. He had previously served as Planning Director for Nibley. KBNU News Time is 4:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Reporting the news that matters to you. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, your number one radio station for news and talk.
Slough in the Rough. This golf tournament is scheduled for May 12th at the Logan River Golf Course. Registration will begin at 8 with a 9 a.m. shotgun and then lunch, awards, and prizes immediately following play. Get your team signed up for a good time and a great cause. Slough in the Rough will benefit students and teachers with scholarships and grants within the Logan School District. Call 755-2300 to sign up. Cost for a foursome is $800. Call 755-2300 and tell them you want to play Friday, May 12th in Slough in the Rough.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
please be done.
Over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Wednesday, May 3rd. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. Welcome to the show. Coming up later on, I'll be honest with you, hour 2 of today's show, we're going to revisit some interviews because I've got to skedaddle. So if you happen to miss our chat with Congressman Blake Moore a few weeks ago, I should say, and Logan City's Emily Malik on green waste options. I know that's on everybody's mind a lot now. We'll be revisiting those, our time with those two in hour 2 of today's show. But you've got me live here in hour 1, Bill as well, live. Well, you're live, right?
Let me pinch myself and see if I'm... Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, ouch. Yeah, so I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, man, it's... It is a beautiful day out there. It feels very summer-like, but of course this means, flooding. And tragically, there have been there's now a couple of different areas of concern when it comes to flooding involving reservoirs and more. Nothing to panic about. But I know that so the Hiram Reservoir, the spillway there, was in need of some repairs scheduled for 2026, and they're keeping a close eye on that. Water managers told me today when I simply asked why they were all out there, when I noticed and driving through, they're just keeping an eye on it. There are some cracks in the spillway area. And there's a lot of water rushing out there right now to keep, the reservoir from overfilling. But the cracks aren't of great concern. They're just keeping a close eye on it just to, be extra safe. But there are concerns about some other reservoirs throughout Utah as they begin to fill. And part of the reason, I guess, is that some of these reservoirs spent a couple of years dry, which has a tendency to change the consistency of things a bit in earthen barriers to the reservoir, things like that. Nothing, again, to panic about yet, but it just goes to say there is a lot of water out there right now. There have been, sadly, there is a woman, at this point, a recovery operation, not a rescue operation, a woman who was heard by passersby screaming for help in the Weber River and then was never found. The woman swept away by the river was walking dogs, and crews are working to clear up Little Cottonwood Canyon after a mudslide there that almost took a life of cleanup crews that were actually working in the area. So we mentioned yesterday for a brief period of time, well, most of the day actually, Blacksmith Fork Canyon was closed due to both water over the roadway, which happens there, occasionally, but it hasn't for a while. But combining that with spring runoff damage to the shoulder of the road, crews up there yesterday repairing that, filling some things in to keep the road from collapsing off a bit on the edge there. So, yeah. And water spilling over the emergency causeway berm in the Great Salt Lake. I don't know when the last time that actually happened was. It's been years, though. So,
it kind of brings to mind kind of shades of the early 80s.
Yeah, that's
stuff like that was going on.
I was young, but I have a memory of, so I have some relatives who live in the Morgan County area, and they're not far from the Weber River, far enough that, they didn't have to evacuate or anything like that in 83, but they were close enough that their backyard was a few inches of standing water for about a week. And I remember going out in the fields and catching salamanders that had come from the spillover of the river into their field. And by the way,
were you able to keep them as pets?
I kept one for 7 years.
Wow!
As a kid, fed it crickets, and it just died one day. And a nice veterinarian at Willow Park, actually, I asked him as a kid what happened to my salamander, and he said that's about their lifespan.
Oh.
So I think it died of natural causes.
So it wasn't a bad cricket or anything like
that. That's right. But yeah, I felt so bad. But that was some memories of that, and getting some photos from these same family members of the same areas where we went and played in this water that had run from the river as a kid, which, by the way, you're not supposed to do. It was the 80s, so nobody thought about, groundwater in septic tanks and things like that.
They didn't even have seat belts and back seats of cars back then. It was just...
I had an actual, I've still got it. I'm keeping it because I swear one day it's going to be worth money. But I have a set of the original metal point jarts from the 80s as a kid.
Wow.
It was a different time, I'm telling you. But I do. These were, for those not familiar, they make them now with rubber tips or harder plastic tips sometimes. But these were weighted darts about the size of a hammer and about the weight of a hammer. And they had a handle on the t'other end that you'd hold on to and a pointed metal spike on the business end. And the game this was the game. You'd put a hoop down on the grass, and then you and a bunch of other people, I'm not kidding, would throw these in the air as high as you could with no skill or training or accuracy or anything. And you'd all stand there and look to see where they came down and see who got closest to the hoop, the target. It took about a week.
What could go wrong?
That's right. It took about a week before one of these stuck in someone's skull, and they were pulled off the market. But I've actually got a set still in the box even from when I was a kid. Yeah. So anyway, it was a different time. We played in standing water.
You now use it as a weapon, just
That's right.
Just in case an intruder comes in or something.
That's right. Oh man. But yeah, there's just a general flooding update for you. Again, it's something to take seriously. We haven't had any reports of any human river interactions here in northern Utah. But again, one woman. At this point, there hasn't been a recovery, but it's a safe guess at this point that she has lost her life to the Weber River. Was out walking dogs apparently at the time, and folks heard her calling for help, and still a big mystery how she ended up in the river. And then there was a man who nearly lost his life in the Jordan River, kayaking. He underestimated the force of the river as it pinned him up against a berm and flipped him upside down. If you've ever tried to fight against a rushing river, It's something you can do any time of the year on larger rivers. Around here, usually wading the river is not a big deal. Kids do it all the time. Dogs do it. Barely get you wet up to the knees, right? But a rushing river, and a good way to tell if a river qualifies as a rushing river is if it's clear or not. And you may have noticed that the rivers coming out of our canyons right now are the opposite of clear. That means there's enough power to stir a lot of things up. And so your risks are, underestimating the power of all that water coming down, thinking that because it's a shallow area, you can push through without it knocking you off your feet. You're likely wrong. And then another risk is debris floating that you can't often see. But if you've ever been in a river and been swept by a large rock or log, it's a very uncomfortable thing, and it does take you off your feet. And it will take you a bit to get back on your feet, and that could be life-threatening before you do. I'm speaking from experience at times when flooding wasn't a concern, just wading rivers on some backpacking trips and underestimating how little depth of water it takes to be force enough to destabilize you. And, so take it really seriously. Don't risk it right now. And if you're out walking the pooches near these waterways, I know a lot of trails are near these waterways, keep them out for the time being. So, general flood update there. On the other side, we'll officially get things underway with your headlines and smooth jazz right after this.
With so much financial uncertainty, are you wondering if your retirement savings will last? The market's ups and downs can keep you guessing, especially if you're approaching retirement or considering it. Your Edward Jones financial advisor can help. If you have more questions than answers about what's next, they can work with you to help ensure you're prepared for the future. After all, retirement isn't the end of the road, it's a new beginning. Call one of the 7 branch locations in Cache Valley or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour,
if you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind,
walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
What is dedication?
My daughter is biological and my son is adopted. I love them both so much. From the morning when you wake up to putting them to bed at night and every moment in between. I think a parent's job is to protect our children, but also prepare them for the world so they become good, kind human beings.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. It is time to officially get things underway here on the show with our contribution to the news cycle each day while keeping the temperature down. It's your headlines and smooth jazz. On this day in history, well, first off, a personal on this day in history. On this day in history, a year ago, I successfully planted my first ever, 2 years ago, successfully planted my first ever gooseberry. I learned about these from, reading about them, but I have a friend with family in Germany, and he told me these are bushes with, if you ever had a gooseberry, they're really good, but he said they will grow anywhere. He said in Germany they grow under pine trees where the soil's acidic and they get very little sun or water, and he said they seem to love it, and so I bought this thing 2 years ago, planted it in the worst spot I could find, where nothing else would grow, but I needed something to grow, and I'm happy to report 2 years later, on this day in history, it's doing really well. The real history, though, May 3rd, 1494, Christopher Columbus first spots Jamaica and noted it in his journal. In 1856, the Judo World Championships were first held. And on this day in 1937, Gone with the Wind, novel by Margaret Mitchell, not the movie, won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction. Birthdays today, Frankie Valli, born in 1934 on this day. James Brown in 1933. Prime Minister of Israel, Golda Meir, famous for turning that country around into a democracy, or close to, born on this day in 1898. Magician Doug Henning, born on this day in 1947. And singer Christopher Cross was born on this day in 1951. You know him. You just don't know that you know him. Utah in the headlines for, some people are finding this funny. I kind of don't, because the state is trying to do something serious here. And the debate over whether we're achieving that or whether we're repeating war on drugs mistakes is an important debate. But the headlines over the last 24 hours, understandably, have led to a lot of giggling. Even from lawmaker Senator Todd Weiler, primarily. The sponsor of the bill has been having the time of his life with some of the mean responses he's getting through email. What's it all about? Well, yesterday, one of the biggest purveyors of pornography online blocked Utah. And within minutes, lawmakers said they started receiving calls. Representative Jeff Stenquist said he got a call about 30 minutes after, in hindsight, they were able to see when the pornography website blocked Utahns. Utahns who visited the website would see a message that said, because your lawmakers passed a law attempting to require us to upload and retain copies of your proof of identification, driver's licenses, and more, which we feel is a huge security risk to you as consumers, we have instead, to protect our company from liability, legal liability, blocked all users from IP addresses in Utah. So the joke yesterday was it took Utahns less than 30 minutes to notice that the world's largest, most popular pornography website had blocked Utahns. Today, on the heels of that, Solid Tribune reporting that Utah was number one in the world in the last 24 hours for new virtual private network subscriptions. These are services you can sign up for that basically hide your IP address. And I guarantee the two are 100% related. So where this goes from here, I don't know. I do feel the legislature's bill was hastily crafted and poorly thought out. But their goals of making sure that these websites that legally distribute pornography for a fee are not doing so to those under the age of 18, which they're not supposed to do anyway. But I worry that how we're asking them to prove that creates more problems for adults even. I don't really trust Facebook with my data. I don't want to give them a copy of my Social Security number. And we're talking about doing that with websites for pornography now? Not a good idea. Spring runoff throughout Cache Valley. Two stories from our flood update that I held on to intentionally for headlines of smooth jazz. It is here. Spring runoff is impacting areas of Cache County. This morning, crews closed a section of 2400 West in Amalga after the Bear River flooded up, and over the bridge near 5700 North. There is also word and a few photos sent in by listeners that the bridge in Smithfield is close. Not over yet, but close. And this, as Bill and I mentioned yesterday, as I'll mention here again, this is tip of the iceberg territory that we're in here as far as spring runoff goes. We have just started the temperatures that bring that big snow melt. So things are still going to get a little worse before they get better. So, 5 hospitals in Utah have been acquired by a Catholic health system. This planned acquisition was announced way back in February, which prompted some questions about what care would be offered under the new owner's ethical and religious directives. The 5 Utah hospitals as of today are under this new ownership, and name changes announced today after Common Spirit Health, the name of the Catholic health company, completed the acquisition. It made it official today and took ownership and operable responsibility for the hospitals. These hospitals, one of them, for example, formerly owned by Steward Healthcare, transitioning into medical centers for for-profit institutions through this Catholic heritage, as they describe themselves, healthcare company. The hospitals are Davis Hospital and Medical Center, Jordan Valley Medical Center, Jordan Valley Medical Center West, Mountain Point Medical Center in Lehigh, and Salt Lake Regional Medical Center is now going to be called Holy Cross Hospital. The questions about how healthcare might change, because there are certain things Catholics believe should not be offered as far as healthcare goes, including at some Catholic-owned hospitals, even advice or distribution of very commonly used forms of contraception, IUDs and more. Calling it a religious conviction, they, through their hospital systems, don't provide those types of services. This, of course, caused some concern for many Utahns, lawmakers, even the governor weighing in. But Centura Health's president and CEO, Peter Banco, said in a news release today, our caregivers in Utah have built a legacy of high-quality, compassionate care, and we look forward to extending that same coverage and service, building on personal care and a flourishing community. No one lost their jobs in this acquisition, and the statement, though a little vague, seems to put to rest at least some of the concerns, saying that just because the Catholic Health Company is now full owners of these 5 hospitals, they don't plan to change any of the services at all. So that's good news. If you'd like more about this, and also to keep an eye on it as they eye up other purchases here in Utah, something they said they were looking at, including one in northern Utah, though not in Cache Valley. I've posted a link to their full press release today, responding to some of these concerns on our Facebook page. So, hormone therapy that cannot be taken during pregnancy has been a concern for women who have had breast cancer. But a new study is good news for women who've had breast cancer and come to the other side of treatment of that as far as having a baby. Women who've had breast cancer, the study says, can safely pause treatment for pregnancy. This is a hormone therapy that is oftentimes given to someone who's had breast cancer because it's very likely that one bout with breast cancer is not going to be the last. Not a guarantee, but likely. And they know that certain types of hormone therapies can prevent that. The problem is they aren't safe to take, they weren't sure if they were safe to take while pregnant. But a new study, peer-reviewed and published today in Health and Medicine Journal, says that they found absolutely no correlation between post-breast cancer treatment hormone therapy for women and danger or even risk of deformity to the pregnancy or the pregnant mother. So good news there from the science world. If you'd like to read more about that, I've linked to that full study on our Facebook page as well. Those are your headlines and smooth jazz. We'll be back with more of KVN News for the People right after the local headlines with KVN News' Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:33, and the news is brought to you by Logan Extermination. Crews spent a second day searching for a woman reported to have been carried away in the fast-moving Weber River. Weber County Sheriff Sergeant Paul Babinski said crews had not found anyone as of late Tuesday afternoon, but the search taking place along the border of South Weber and Uinta was set to continue into the evening. Authorities have not yet identified the woman, but a family friend said that 28-year-old Libby Stimson had been walking her dogs Monday afternoon on her family farm. At the time, she ended up in the river. The sheriff's office confirmed the dogs were later found unharmed, but the search for the woman was still underway roughly 24 hours later. A state court Tuesday blocked Utah's first-in-the-nation ban on abortion clinics from taking effect today in a ruling in which the judge called the Republican-controlled legislature's objective in enacting the ban nebulous. The decision allows the state's 4 clinics to continue providing abortions, while Judge Andrew Stone takes more time to weigh the merits of a lawsuit filed by Planned Parenthood of Utah, which argued the law would functionally eliminate abortion access by limiting the procedure to hospitals. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has shared the locations for a temple in Africa and one in Europe, along with renovations announced for a temple in Canada. The location announced in Africa will be for the Kumasi, Ghana temple. Church officials say it will be built on a just over 2-acre site in Kumasi. The Kumasi, Ghana temple was first announced in April 2021 by Church President Russell M. Nelson. It will be the second temple in Africa. The location of the Oslo, Norway temple was announced by the church. It will be built on an 8-acre site in Valstad. It's planned to be 1 story. The Oslo, Norway temple will be the first in the country and the 4th in Scandinavia, according to church officials. KVNU News Time is 4:35.
With this incredibly cold and wet winter, it's put everybody behind on lawn care services. Logan Extermination is ready to serve you. They offer the following services: outside bug spray from April to October for $65 per spray. Spray for weeds in your lawn as soon as possible for only $45 per 5,000 square feet. Don't forget, Logan Extermination can aerate your lawn to get airflow to combat the extra snow and moisture. Call Logan Extermination today. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
KVNU weather tonight, partly cloudy this evening, then mostly cloudy. Slight chance of rain showers overnight, low in the mid-40s. Chance of rain showers Thursday morning. Rain showers likely and a chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon. Cloudy, cooler, mid-60s for the high. Then a chance of showers with us each day right on through the weekend. It's been to 77, and it's 77 degrees right now at KBNU. Right now, enjoy 15% off all tree trimming services from Whole Tree Care. Call 435-760-6587. That's Whole Tree Care. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
Good afternoon. This is Branch Office Administrator Whitney Heyer bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Mike Arnold and Edward Jones. In a unanimous vote, the Federal Reserve raised rates by a quarter point, bringing its overnight policy rate to 5% to 5.25%. The statement omitted a line that read, "Some additional policy firming may be appropriate," signaling that the May hike will likely be the last. Because of the long-reported lags before monetary policy tends to impact the economy, and with the disinflation process underway, policymakers will likely follow a wait-and-see approach to policy. Today, U.S. equities closed lower. The Dow closed down 270 points at 33,414. The NASDAQ closed down 55 points at 12,025. The S&P closed down 29 points at 4,091. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 3.36%. The price of crude oil was down $3.50 at 68.16. And the spot price of gold was up $19.90 to $2,043.20. In stocks of local interest, Auto Leave was down 33 cents at 84.46. Chevron was down $3.21 at 156.83. Dominion Energy was up 23 cents at 55.76. Home Depot was down $1.20 at 293.08. Kroger was down 50 cents at 48.94. Lowe's was down 66 cents at 205.31. McDonald's was down $2.85 at 295.22. Microsoft was down 101 at 304.40. Nucor was down 37 cents at 146.19. Philip Morris was down $1.05 at 95.86. And Walmart finished down 56 cents at 150.62. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Mike Arnold, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 135 North Main, Suite 102 in downtown Logan. If you'd like additional information, please contact our branch office at 753-2915.
Crews have closed a section of 2400 West in Amalga after the Bear River flooded up and over the bridge near 5700 North this morning. Roy Hathaway, ground crew lead with the Cache County Road Department, explained that the section of road and bridge are completely submerged by the river. The closure will likely remain in effect for some time until water levels drop. The closure will impact motorists traveling along 2400 West between Benson and Amalga. Right now, motorists are being detoured around the impacted area by traveling along 5400 North to State Road 218.
My hearing started to go right around the same time my wife started naming off all the upgrades she wanted done on the house. I figured it was selective hearing. To be honest, I was actually pretty upset when it was suggested that I might need hearing aids, but ultimately I knew it was time for a change.
At Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology, we can help you regain the confidence that you're hearing life the way it was meant to be heard.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Visit CacheHearing.com for details.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I haven't seen it myself, but we're talking a bit about floods and how we're just starting, the spring runoff. It's going to get worse. Photos of the portion of the 2400 West in Amalga that's been closed due to water running over the road. And I don't have any listener asked, I don't have any photos of the river almost coming over the bridge there in Smithfield, but several people have said they noticed that. What I do have, and I've posted them to our Facebook page, are some photos of the Bear River right now. And I haven't heard a word about any flooding outside of, traditional areas that it floods in the spring, where the river always gets a little wider in some areas in the springtime. Even in the drought years, it's done that. I don't know that anything's worse than that right now. It might be, it might not be. I don't know. All I know is the photos that were sent to me. I don't remember the Bear River looking like that for a long time. So it's pretty good as far as water levels go. Take it seriously, to say the least. But the Godfather of AI, that's how he's been known, scientist Geoffrey Hinton, he's responsible for what was the foundation of, the foundation that became current artificial intelligence systems. He's the guy who, not he alone, but he was one of the groundbreaking researchers that led to a whole team of scientists that led to, some breakthroughs in software design and development that without which, today's artificial intelligence wouldn't be possible. I don't know if anyone has seen these videos. I've played with ChatGPT a little bit, OpenAI's platform or software, or whatever we're calling it, Max Headroom. It's kind of fun. We've used it. We toyed with it a bit, just experimenting a bit, even in our newsroom, editing stories and things like that to see how it worked. It's pretty cool. It's fun stuff. You can see its obvious real-world applications. You can also see its potential for abuse. And I still say by the 20, I don't remember where I landed now on this, but I think I was 2032. I still say by the 2032 presidential election, there is at least not a voting block large enough to make a difference, but a significant enough voting block to get on the map and be mentioned, are going to be backing a fake candidate by 2032. That's my doomsday prediction. People will get excited about software saying the right things, and they will back that software for president. And I'm not kidding you, that will happen. But this man, who again is someone you could say is responsible for the development of artificial intelligence, though he didn't develop it himself, he laid the groundwork. He and others at the British Canadian Research Institution, they all worked at. He recently just retired, and in his retirement, he spent about a decade working as a consultant for Google. And there was news today that he resigned, and he resigned citing concerns over the dangers posed by artificial intelligence advancements and what he says is a complete irresponsible, even intentional disregard for the ethical questions that scientists, researchers, and even the businesses backing this research are committing. He said it's irresponsible. He says they know the potential risks and they're not bothering to ask. And that's something he says every scientist, like a doctor, has a creed, a code, an unspoken promise to actually do, to ask those ethical questions. It was in an interview with the World's Marco Werman Tuesday. He said that his time as a consultant with Google had led to a drastic change of heart about his own work. It reminded me, Bill, you remember the from history, there were all these scientists who were involved with Los Alamos and the development of the atomic bomb who throughout question.
Well, I'm not that old.
No, but I know you know the history. But you remember,
Yeah, I remember it as if it was yesterday.
No, I know that you're familiar with the history, and we've there were these reports of these scientists working on this who knew what they were doing and were uncomfortable with it, and then afterwards, said maybe we shouldn't have done this, maybe we should have, and those questions, are in the history books at this point, because who knows what would have happened if the war had continued. But
just an aside from that, I do remember this as a kid. My uncle brought me some white sand from White Sands, National Monument down in that area.
Oh, yeah.
And my mom made me throw it away because she was worried that it was radioactive.
Radiation. Yeah. Maybe.
It didn't glow or
maybe
anything.
A good call.
But I was sad. I thought that white sand was kind of neat.
That's. I think it's safe to go there now if you want another bottle. Although it might be illegal to take it. You better check on that. It just reminds me of those stories. That's kind of where we're at with this. Not to compare artificial intelligence to the atomic bomb and the destruction it has the potential for. But as far as scientific advances that could have very, very negative, not at all unforeseen, but ignored consequences. And that's basically what this guy's saying. Hinton says that his change of heart is because of the potential outcomes of artificial intelligence and how quickly it's advancing. He says after a career focused on developing digital neural networks, that's what he worked on, designs that mimic how the human brain works, how the human brain processes information. He said, my own work has catapulted artificial intelligence tools. And he said the problem is, once these things get more intelligent than us, it's not clear what happens next. Are we going to be able to control it? I know this is the stuff of science fiction, but it's a very real concern. He said there are examples right now of more intelligent things that we've created controlling less intelligent things. So we already know this is something we're capable of doing. He said none of this is inconceivable, and it's being written off because it's science fiction. It's what's usually been in the realm of science fiction, but he said he believes his fellow scientists aren't being realistic. And he says, that's all I'll say. This world where we create something that then makes us subservient is a possible reality. He says it's not inconceivable, and he's concerned that scientists, when he would ask them about this, scoffed at the idea. He says that it is possible to continue down this road, developing actual artificial intelligence, which could even be employed widespread through, various areas of commerce. It could be used in hundreds of different ways, and he said he believes it can be done responsibly. His criticism is that we're not. He said one of the examples he likes to point to when he lectures on this, when he has the opportunity, is the world of using AI to, quote, elevate productivity. He said that new design materials and expedited automated processes and things like that, it could be great. He said it could help us achieve fossil-free energy production. He said it has huge potential in the areas of medicine, where artificial intelligence-driven tools have already shown some promise for diagnosis and even treatment. He said all these things are amazing, and I'm not saying we shouldn't go there. But he said what I'm saying is, would you rather go to a doctor that's seen 100 million patients or one that has only seen a few thousand, and also a few thousand where it's never been asked to meet some of these ethical challenges because the scientists who made it weren't asking those questions? He said artificial intelligence in the end is going to reflect us, our biases, our prejudices, our blind spots, and our oversights, our failures of good judgment, our confirmation biases, our emotional decision-making when we're scared or frightened. He said artificial intelligence will, by nature, reflect all of this, the good and the bad, of what it means to be human. And he said the problem right now is scientists are not being realistic about that. He doesn't think that AI development needs to take a pause, by the way. He notes the difficulties could be overcome. Again, his criticism is simply this, that the scientists are not pausing to ask these questions. And he uses the same example I used. He said, with nuclear tests, you can verify them. But with AI research, it's going to be almost impossible to verify that some people are not doing it secretly. That's another problem. We need to develop these things responsibly so that we can know where the problem areas are and address them earlier rather than later. But I think we need a lot of people thinking about these things, and right now it's a few thousand around the world, and they're moving ahead full steam without asking these questions themselves. It's a really interesting. It gets us into the world of, ethics conversations and philosophy classes and the stuff of science fiction. But Hinton is basically saying, as a man who helped develop this, he's basically saying, stop thinking about this as science fiction. This is where we are now. And he said, think about this. Artificial brains, artificial personages, if you want to call them that, are going to be master manipulators because they'll have learned from us by reading everything we have ever written in seconds. Will they have their own goals and want to manipulate people to achieve those goals? And will we somehow be able to control them once we discover the answer to those questions is yes? How do you control something that you've built when it's more intelligent than you? Well, that is a very difficult thing to do. Stop thinking about this as science fiction. It's the reality today. Man, that is sobering. Check it out. I've linked to the video of his lecture on this, but also his writing on this and his interview with the world's Marco Werman Tuesday project, which is a scientific podcast. The Godfather of AI quit Google this week, saying, we're not being responsible, and we're about to develop artificial intelligence that will prove to be a master manipulator. Links on the Facebook page, and we'll be back right after this.
Make laundry a snap with the large load washers and dryers at Mount Logan Laundry. Rather than 8 to 10 loads at home, get the job done in 1 or 2 with their 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers that are perfect for sleeping bags, comforters, and other big items. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South.
Glenn Beck. There's a new study out, and the study shows 78% of suspects released without bail were found to be rearrested, and if you gave bail, only 46% were arrested. Okay, well, let me ask, Portland, you had all the power. What levers did you not control? Why did it not work out well? Were the wrong people in charge again?
The Glenn Beck Program. Sunday afternoons from 2 to 5 on News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Text from a listener here saying, isn't it the nature of science fiction that almost everything in science fiction eventually becomes a reality? I mean, not always. There's Asimov wrote about a lot of stuff that hasn't happened yet. Brin also wrote about a lot of stuff that we've since found out wasn't physically possible. When he wrote stories about black holes based on what we knew about black holes then. And so it's not always the case that science fiction, always comes true, but it often is. And I agree with the Dr. Hinton in his comments about artificial intelligence. Again, for those just tuning in, this is the guy that helped develop it. One of the foremost researchers on recreating human neural networks via software. So his work is why artificial intelligence as it exists today is possible. And he just quit Google, saying we're not being responsible about this. He's not saying we shouldn't do it, or we should. He's not even saying we necessarily need to slow down. He just says that he's shocked that people aren't asking these questions about how do we stop this from getting out of hand, from getting smarter than us, from overpowering us, from making bad decisions that we make because we've imported our own biases and even racism into artificial intelligence and then given it the power to be a doctor or a policeman. He said, that is the future, and we need to be realistic about that, and that means we need to start asking these questions now. So a listener here chiming in saying, isn't that science fiction, isn't it always predictive? And not always, but yeah, in this case, I think that's what Hinton seems to be saying. He said people are kind of writing this off because it's considered science fiction, while not admitting that we've actually come to a point where some of this science fiction is actually the reality now. When it comes to artificial intelligence, that is the reality. Another listener chiming in here saying, if everyone's riding around in automated vehicles that can be controlled by software, and all of a sudden all those vehicles come to a stop and the doors won't unlock, that's a good way to trap most of the human race for your robot takeover. That's kind of an absurd example, and mainly because I've never bought that there's ever going to be widespread adoption of autonomous vehicles. I think if people really decide that, in mass they want autonomous vehicles, they'll just ride buses. We already have those. You don't have to drive those either. Well, one person does. But, I think that that's kind of the problem, is that it's easy to kind of scoff at these things as absurd conspiracy theories or the stuff from, wild science fiction. And yet, Hinton's right. When it comes to artificial intelligence, we're kind of at that point now. We're to the point where some of those science fiction stories are real. And I don't think it's going to be like the Terminator franchise. I don't think there's ever going to be a Skynet that I think will stop it. I'm not saying there couldn't be, but I think we'll stop us before it gets out of hand. We'd stop a Skynet that tried to take over through a robot war like the movies. But I definitely think we might see a Skynet that tries to run for president one day, and like I said, enough people falling for it that they walk away with 10%, and that's scary to even think about. But I guarantee, after what we've seen over the last few years, if it's saying the right things, you'll get a few 100,000 Americans to vote for a fake candidate, knowing it's a fake candidate. They'll find a way to justify it because it's saying what they want to hear. So, yeah, I don't think Skynet is going to be trying to turn us into slaves via a robot army, but I think Skynet could actually, at a certain point, decide it needs to run for the highest office in the country before we do more damage to ourselves through our own bad judgment. And that's a scary thing to think about. But again,
that would be an interesting campaign to observe.
Yeah. What would be weird is when it becomes the most credible candidate, too. Because think about it. A fake software candidate isn't going to have any skeletons in their closet. No past scandals to come forward. Yeah. We're here, though. I mean, we're at that point. Read Hinton's full comments. I've linked to him on our Facebook page. Coming up on the other side, I need to take off for the day, so we're going to revisit our time with Congressman Blake Moore and Logan City's Emily Malik, talking respectively about Logan City changes to Logan City's green collection this year, what you can do with your clippings and more, and what Congressman Moore has to say about the upcoming debt ceiling battle, underway now, but really coming to a head sometime this summer. That's coming up here in hour 2 of today's show, right after this, here on KVNU Logan.
As our world changes, we're with you. News Talk KVNU Logan, 102 FM, 610 AM, the voice